Hey, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to the property. So today's video is going to be completing another task on the property that needs to get done, and that is building a driveway entrance gate to block the outcoming traffic from coming in. I think this is very important to put up cameras, to put up certain security measures, a gate, no trespassing signs, so on and so forth, just to do your part as a property owner to tell people to stay out. Now it is raining, it is very windy out today, so I don't know how fun this is going to be, but it's definitely going to get done. Some of you may recognize this large pipe as a piece that we welded on the oil drum for the chimney stack. This pipe is not long enough to sink in the ground to concrete to then weld off of, and I don't have anything that's really heavy steel, and I'm kind of doing this on a budget. So we're going to be utilizing this pipe as the welding point for the gate. And this is literally going to be a hinge. So this is going to be a sleeve. We're going to slide over top of a log that's going to get concreted into the ground, and it's just going to be a budget gate. Trust me, this is actually going to work. I put a lot of thought into this, and it'll be strong, it'll be sturdy, it'll last a very long time, it'll be reusable, and no, someone's not going to be able to come up with a chainsaw and cut it, because the steel is literally going to protect the entire log. You'll see what I'm talking about once we get started. I know I need to be 12 feet in length. I've got one pipe here a little bit longer, probably about 15 feet. I've got a pipe that's just shy of 12 feet, so I'm not going to cut the other pipe. We're going to have to put an angle on that, use that as our length, cut this piece, get it welded to this, and like I said, this is the hinge, so this whole thing's got to get drugged to the end of the driveway, slid over top of the log, and then secured to the log, and hopefully done. First order of business is going to be two things. One, we have to trim this pipe so it's nice and flush so I can weld the top cap on. That's part of the security measure. And secondly, we need to find a log of very, very close diameter to the inside diameter of this pipe and get it in the ground right now with some concrete so it'll set while we're welding. of strained right now, and well, they kind of are. So what's going on is I already know the depth of my hole because I already drilled my hole yesterday. This is upside down, so this is going into the ground. This pipe can only slide right to here, and then it gets too fat for it to go down. So that's how I know that's where I want the ground to be, and this is going to go beneath the ground. I have to drill a hole, or at least start a hole, put a very large lag bolt through, and that's what's going to stop the pipe. It's going to land on that piece of metal. It's going to protrude out of both sides, and this piece of metal is going to glide on that bolt, so it can't sink in the ground. So it'll make sense once it's in the ground, concreted in and all that fun stuff, but for now I'm actually going to hold off on putting the bolt in just in case this sinks a little bit deeper into the ground, or I can readjust the hole where it needs to be drilled. The biggest thing right now is get this in the ground, mix up some concrete and get it setting so that I can turn my attention to cutting the pipe and fabricating the gate. Alright guys, so just before anybody gets too confused as to what I'm doing, basically this log still has the bark on it, and even with the bark off of it, it's a really smooth, slippery tree. Well, if we put this in the ground and put concrete around it, it can run the risk of shrinking because it is still a green tree. There's lots of life in this, which is the reason why I chose it. It's not just going to decay and fall apart. This could slip right out of the concrete. So these screws are kind of like rebar. Put these in the tree at different spots and that'll bite onto the concrete so this doesn't just pluck right out of the concrete. So I've got a number of long screws in there. That'll really help. I'm going to now pull this out of the pipe, drag it down to the hole, and pull the log out that I've got in the hole right now. Get this set in there, have a little bit of a quick look at it. And yeah, I may have to cut some off the top, I'm not sure. I'm definitely going to have to get help, I think, lifting the gate up and over the log because I'm going to be welding it off. I may change my mind halfway through and I may just weld it at the end of the driveway. I'd really like to do it right here on a flat surface though, to be totally honest. So yeah, let's just get this down in the hole, get it mocked up, come back up, mix up some concrete, and then start filling that thing with cement. Alright, so concrete is basically already set. It's been about 40 minutes to an hour. I got 3 batches dumped in the ground. Come up to this pipe, flushed up the end, cut that off, so both ends have a nice flat cut to it now. And basically just got my pipes to my gate laid out. This is going to be the ground, that is going to be up in the air, so it's going to stand up like this. Very, very basic gate. This is obviously going to get welded to the center. I'm lucky that this is a small enough diameter, that's a large enough diameter that I don't actually have to contour the edge as I weld it, which is going to save me a lot of time. But I do need to jack this up probably on some bricks that I've got laying around or pieces of wood just to get it to where I need to weld it, and then I can tack it together and go from there. So I'm actually using the deck ribs here, these little lines on the deck, as my square. I've squared the pipe up to the deck, and the pipe just literally sits right in the groove, which is awesome because it makes it really, really easy to hold things together. So before this rain starts pouring, I'm going to get out the welder and yeah, do a little bit of cleanup with the grinder and then tack these together, get it welded, and hopefully everything will come together really smoothly today, because I still have one more hole to drill, more concrete to add the opposite side hole in the ground. I don't want to do that just yet because I'm not sure if I'm going to have any leftover pipe here or if I'm going to have to go and collect some or maybe come up with something a little creative. So let's get this prepped and welded. Alright guys, so I've got the gate welded up, everything except for the latch, because I have no idea where that's going to go just yet. I've got the opposite gate post. I did decide on using the same post that I'm using for the actual gate as the latch catch on the other side. And I welded on these flat pieces of steel to act like rebar, so it'll really hold it and anchor it down into the concrete. That way the pipe won't just be able to be pulled out of the concrete or anything silly like that. Flint and Boomer are out playing right now and somebody wants attention. Oh, there he goes after Boomer. So what I'm going to be doing is I've got my drill with a very long bit. That's going to be my pilot hole to follow with this long lag bolt. I've got my nut driver to send it through the log, and this is the part that's going to go through the wooden log at the very base. The log is probably about 6.5 inches wide, so a little bit is going to stick out on either end, and the gate is going to slide down, and this is going to act as the catch to hold the pipe up and act as the hinge so that pipe can actually rotate. So I've got to go down to the end of the driveway, drill the hole, sink this in there before the pipe and the gate gets dropped on top of the log. Alright guys, so I've got the gate situated on top of the pole that is inside. So like I said, a sleeve. I've got the lag bolt put through, so the weight is all on that. The concrete is rapidly setting. The last batch that went in there still needs to set. The 2 batches under that are pretty much set, but they'll harden even more overnight. Still have to weld the top cap on here and then sink a bolt and then weld the bolt to the top cap. But right now, the gate works. Really happy with that, and there's no way to get a saw underneath to even try to cut that log inside. And to even better the security on that, just get this shut here, to even better the security on that, I want to weld a bunch of tabs from the pipe down to the concrete, so it'll be impossible to get a saw in there. So taking a look at the other side of the gate, this pipe is in here right now. I only have 1 bag of concrete left, so I've got to go pick up 2 more to finish this. And really busy on this road right now, so a little bit of road noise. But the gate looking really good. Still have to weld on tabs for the locking mechanism and the latch, but I think this is going to work out really well. I'm also going to be welding a pipe to this, to a tree, just to strengthen this pipe, just so it doesn't get wonky. And yeah, then the project will be finished. All right, so apologize for the road noise. Generally, it's very quiet out here, but certain peak times of the day, there can be a little bit of traffic. So coming back into the forest here, I have these bed rails, these little pieces. You'll notice that there's already slots in them, and it's really nice heavy-duty angle iron. I also have some flat stock steel here. This is the same pipe that I just put in the ground, so I need to make a latching mechanism. And what I'm thinking is if I cut this angle iron, it'll give me loads of surface to weld on the side. I can then utilize this flat piece, because what I want to do is I want the gate to swing on top of it, so it's carrying the weight all the time. That way it's not putting stress on the log or on the pole or the ground, the concrete, anything like that. So it'll rest on top of it, and then I need to weld up a latch on the gate so they meet, put a padlock through it, and lock it. So play around with some of this stuff here, do some mocking up, cutting, welding, and then I'll have to take the welder down to the end of the driveway to to actually weld it to the pipe and make sure everything lines up for a padlock. Okay guys, I've come up with something that is absolutely stupid easy. It just 100% makes sense. These bed rails, all I did was cut out a little tab. They fit perfectly on this round bar. So pretend that this is the gate and this is the piece that's in the ground. This is going to get welded like that. This gate's then going to come in, slide on top of it. This piece here is already going to be there, which has a hole in it already, a slot. Bam, put a padlock through them. Locks the gate in place, can't move. I love simple things like that, totally makes sense. So I'm gonna have to get the welder, drag it to the end of the driveway, and get this welded onto the pipe. All right guys, so here we are. We got the latches welded up on the pipe. This is the gate latch. Keep in mind the bottom's still not concreted, but I'll open this up. So that opens up. That goes in, long shank padlock goes through, both locking, both secure, which is really, really nice and super simple. All right guys, so that is the gate start to finish, other than the concrete that still needs to go in. And I'm thinking about maybe doing a brace pole welded to the top of this pole over to the tree where the sign is. I'm not too sure yet, but the gate is functional. It opens, it closes, just need more concrete, let that set, and then I'll be able to lock the gate and start using it. So thank you guys very much for joining me. If you have any questions, drop it down below, and I'll see you in the next episode.